So Bitcoin is interesting. Last week I was quite bullish just because we were able to kind of get back above this trend line, but I was talking about not longing here, and even though I was bullish, I was talking about not longing here. I think we needed to see a sign of strength, a continued sign of strength, and I was very adamant about what I wanted to see. When it comes to trading, if you don't see it, don't trade it. If you plan it, if you see it, trade it. But if you don't see it, then don't trade it. It's not part of the plan. And without kind of turning the volume on the previous week's stream, I was talking about this daily level. I was saying we need to reclaim that daily level. And I was seeing some bearish divergences and some shorts coming in, and you can't long when you're getting bearish divergences. You just can't. It's just bad move, because you're fighting bigger players, whales. And basically I was saying that this is what I was coming up with. Look, see that? And effectively the long would be to reclaim the daily level, or to lose this lower daily level for a downward move. That was what was on my mind last week. Pretty straightforward, huh? Because the price was compressing. When you get those kind of compressions, you get these big moves. So that was last Friday. And so I said, don't long here. We need a sign of strength, a continuation. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Then I kind of looked at the Wyckoff possibilities. I'm going to have a look at the Wyckoff again, because we may be in an accumulation schematic. Yeah. With accumulation schematics, you've got to keep on looking at them, because they kind of progress and it takes time to kind of develop. We were showing strength, and so I'm bullish because we can. And I gave reasons why I was bullish. I said that reclaiming that trend line was important. I said if it was really bearish, we would have bounced off that trend line and kept on going. So if the fully fledged bear market had begun, this steeper trend line would have kept pushing the price down. It hasn't really done that, and that tells you something about the price. Doesn't mean it can't go down. Just because you're bullish doesn't mean it's going up. Just because you're bearish doesn't mean it's going down. It just stops you from reacting too fast, waiting and looking for a good setup. And I did say that if we do lose that trend line again, it will drop very fast again. I'm not going to play the video, but I said if we go back underneath that trend line, we'll get another fast drop, because that's a real weakness. That was in my last week's video. I didn't give any trade ideas apart from this. Apart from that, a reclaim or a loss. That was it. That was my trade ideas I gave. It was really simple, and we were here. You see that? This little kind of bunch of candles here. Let me go to the 1 hour time frame. I was thinking to myself, you sometimes with these moves you get a fake out and then a move. In this case, it didn't really fake out. It kind of took a previous high and went down, but it took the previous low first. Yeah, so it was like a double fake out. It's really tricky with these kinds of moves if you don't catch them. And if you see how it fell, it didn't give a back test, or maybe it did. Let me see where we are. That's the 5 minute time frame. Maybe it did. No, it didn't. See that? There was no way to catch that. There was no meaningful back test. It was just volume coming in, bam, 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 and it was a hard one to see. You'd have to jump in. You'd either have to take that, trade the range, which is what that was in. It was in the range, and you'd either just trade the range and you get lucky on one side of the range, or yeah, there was no like bam. It was just bam. It was just straight down. and continuation. So that's kind of how it went. That's kind of why I didn't give any kind of trade ideas, because it wasn't easy. Where was it? It was here. And you see how we're kind of playing with this trend line. We lost it. The pressure is on. Now what I'm thinking is this. So while I still have this crazy long lower down, which is a really good longer, it'd be a really good long to take out that pivot. And long, the reality is that the fact that this trend line hasn't continued tells me something. Yeah. And so I'm just going to update my levels as well while I'm here. I think usually in some kind of bear market, or the beginning of a bear market, you get a fake reclaim, you lose it, get a nice back test, and bam, and you go down. Yeah. Put in a new low, and everyone is shorting, and we're just going lower. Okay. That's kind of what you expect when things are really bearish. But it's not happened, yeah? It's not doing that. This trend line is now washed, and whereas before it was acting as resistance, you see that? To there, it was resistance, another resistance point there. Now it's being ignored. And so that tells me that this trend line is no longer relevant, but also it tells me that this downward move is still not ready yet. It's not ready for a crazy downward move yet. So we just kind of ignore that now, we delete that, and we still have this kind of slightly outer trend line. Now, this is a really important one because the price could quite easily go up and doesn't do that. Yeah, so we still have this kind of outer structure that needs to break. But the steep one getting washed just tells me that maybe it's not as bearish as everyone thinks, and maybe we are bottoming here. And I do feel that that's more likely the case at the moment. Okay, so let me just kind of have a look at these. That's all irrelevant. Let me delete that. I'm going to go to the volume as I always do. Have a look at the volume, update the volume, get rid of that trend line for a second. And if you're here, thanks for coming, thanks for joining me. I do these streams every Friday. I look at BTC, I kind of do a weekly update, try and predict the future, I guess, or just look at possible ideas. It's one of many ideas, and I think it's important that you realize that no one is right. Everyone has an opinion, and ultimately when you're trading, you have to trade according to your trade plan. You have to have good risk management, and you have to have a definite stop loss, and you have to have key definite take profits, and that's really the only way to do it. If you're doing it any other way, then you're not doing it right. You're effectively gambling based on some other analysis. You can win, huh? Gamblers win money, yeah? Just because you're gambling doesn't mean you can't win. But the traders that really know how to trade and trade on a regular basis, on a daily basis, they risk a small amount of their portfolio per trade. They take 1 or 2 or 3 trades, and if they fail, they walk away. They make a trade plan, they give reasons why, they create stats based on their previous trades. They risk a small amount, they scale into their entry, and they have a definite stop loss, and they don't widen the stop loss. They don't add because they think it's going to go up. They don't think, they just execute on analysis, and then they take profit and make the trade a risk-free trade as quickly as possible, effectively. That's how traders do it. And so this is just entertainment, but it's fun, isn't it? It's fun to kind of look at the charts and be entertained. So I've just updated the volume profile. We still haven't hit that big point of control at 96k, and a definite level to breach. And then I've also got this kind of the bull market volume, which I've been looking at, and you can kind of see that the price is kind of was trying to get back above the value area. Now it's back underneath the value area high, and it's playing around here. Ideally, we want it to get back above the value area high. We want it to get back into this value area. That's what we want to see. If we don't see that, then the price could really struggle. Huh? But at the same time, on the higher time frame, we could be forming a higher low here. And that's something just to kind of bear in mind. We could be forming something like that. Yeah, it's possible. Look at that. We could be ascending in the channel here. It could be a pot at the bottom of a rising channel. If you assume that these 2 points touch correctly and then the top touch correctly there, and then you can see the midpoint there acted nicely there, little front run there, and found support until it lost. We could be forming some kind of accumulation here for a move up, and we have to be careful because any kind of move up could end up with a massive gigantic head and shoulders pattern with a lower high, and then neckline break, and we're fucked. Bitcoin is fucked. Yeah, and I think that's kind of this place we're at the moment, possibly at the neckline of the head with a view of making a right shoulder. At the moment, that's what it looks like. What would change that is how the price moves up, and if we take out the high, the all-time high. Because if we were able to V-shape recovery here, changes everything, because then you'll be looking at a V-shaped recovery. Then you'll be looking to see how the price descends. If it's gently descends, you get consolidation, but a slow descent, we could be setting up for a massive move for continuation to the upside. It's possible. It's definitely possible. Just depends on how the price goes up. It depends on how high the price gets, and it depends on how the price comes back down, because you could also get a situation where you do get a V shape and you get a straight up rejection like that, and then there's no hope. It's finished. You go to a higher high, to a lower low, then you're literally fucked. Yeah. Then it will just be sell season. That would be it. That would be the end, effectively. Don't want to see that. But again, it just depends, because it depends on how the price goes up. I think probably when the price does go up, it will, when it breaks, however it breaks, it will go up quite fast, because you've got a sharp, fast down move. You'll probably end up with quite a sharp, fast up move. And then you're coming into resistance zones, and you're coming into potentially a golden pocket here. You're coming into high volume nodes. You're coming into value area highs. You're coming to a big resistance, maybe midpoint of this channel. The price could quite easily form a lower high, just kind of somewhere around there, and you got a head and shoulders pattern. Once people start seeing head and shoulders patterns, they get scared, very scared. They start selling whatever the price, they'll sell. You don't risk it, huh? When you start seeing a head and shoulders, everyone knows head and shoulders. The only way that you could end up with a bullish head and shoulders is an invalidated head and shoulders. So let's just say this is a really clean neckline. You break down, and it immediately invalidates like that, and it gets back into the neckline, and then an invalidated bearish pattern is a bullish. An invalidated bearish is bullish. Invalidated bullish is bearish. So when you invalidated a pattern that's and it goes the other way, then it becomes aggressively goes the other way. So there's lots of food for thought here. I'm just kind of thinking out loud while I look at the charts and just giving a little bit of commentary. I think we're probably in this kind of rising channel at the moment, probably. And I was looking at, did I save the images? Oh, I didn't save the images. I can't see them. I have to find them again. I was looking at the possibility of Wyckoff, and because I didn't save it, I'm going to have to search for it. All my images. We're looking for a Wyckoff accumulation schematic. You can search for it yourself. And there's two schematics effectively. Just have a look. I looked at it last week. I should have saved the images. I didn't save the images. And that's not even showing. How annoying. Let's have a look at this one. Let's have a look at that one. So this one has a spring, and then one of them has a spring and one of them doesn't. This is the schematic one. I wouldn't mind finding schematic 1 and schematic 2. So let me just have a look. Nation. Pattern 1. It's going back to that one, isn't it? Why don't I save these? It's so annoying. Alright, I know what I can do. I can just print screen it. So there's a schematic 1. Let's have a look at the 2. They're pretty much the same. I think 2 doesn't have a spring. If I can find it. Maybe I have to call it schematic. I can spell. Yeah, I can. There it is. Nope. That's the 2. I'll print screen that as well. I should really kind of save these, shouldn't I? It's obviously not on a higher time frame. We're looking at it at a slightly lower time frame. I mean, based on these schematics, it still looks like we need a drop, doesn't it? Look, a drop, ST in phase B, ST in phase B. It still looks like we've put in the ST here. SC, that's a PS. SC, some kind of AR here. Oh my god, I can't. AR here. Should I do this properly? I'm looking at a 12-hour time frame. Let me go slightly lower. No, 12 hours is enough. Possibly, yeah, it is possible right now. I was looking at it last week. PS. There's your SC. AR. Everything can be invalidated, yeah? Just because you're looking at this and thinking, oh yeah, this is perfect. It may not work. It can be invalidated. Everything can be invalidated. I think we need a lower low here, huh? An ST in phase B. Look, see that? Because you put in that higher high and we've come down. I think we need to go down to take out that low. And then a 5-wave, it would kind of look like this, huh? Down, then you get 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take out those highs. Do 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 do, like an ABC here. and that's when you go up like that, something like that. So I'm not sure about the timings, because obviously we're right at the beginning. We just entered phase B, and we haven't even put in an ST in phase B, because according to these schematics, both of them have the ST in phase B with a swing low, an SFP, or taking the liquidity from that swing low. You see that? Now this accumulation schematic 1 has a spring. The schematic 2 doesn't have a spring per se. It just kind of puts in a higher low. So that's the difference between these two, but otherwise they're pretty much the same. And then obviously the spring has a test, whereas you don't need a test because you're already above support lines. So once you spring, you have to back test the support lines, whereas without the spring you don't need to. That's effectively, so we are possibly in a Wyckoff accumulation schematic, and we are moving down to the downside, even though I think we are at a turning point. The reality is we're still underneath the value area low, and it's very possible that we get one move to the downside to take out this low. And so I'm just going to put that together. Possible accumulation. Okay. And so just based on that idea, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just have a look at the levels again. And I'm ignoring the 74k long that I've been thinking about, just because we're just not there yet. So there's no point thinking about it. Let's get rid of this stuff. 69k, let's get rid of that. High time frame levels. Let's just have a look at the levels. Let me update the levels. That across. Levels are really important because that's how you see signs of strength or weakness. I think today we're looking at a green candle, so there's definitely going to be a new daily level unless something drastically goes wrong by the end of today. I'm just guessing that there's going to be a possibility, if today's a green candle, it's going to be a daily level there. And then let's have a look at the weekly. So we do have a weekly level. It's been touched already, so it's a washed level, and we've already taken the liquidity from that level. Again, we have to see what kind of weekly we have, how the weekly closes. Does it close lower? Does it close above the previous week low? Is it green? Is it red? These are questions, and they will determine what happens next, because, and we haven't taken out this low, this low here, this one, but there is a daily level just below it, and so I think probably that is a really good level to bounce off. 79 excuse me, 79,521. That daily level, that's really the one that I'm looking at. Let me have a look at the POCs. Haven't updated these in a while. We are bouncing from some naked points of control. They're probably washed. I'm not going to waste time and go through them today. So in a gist, what am I thinking? Well, let's have a look at the order flow. So we're above, what are we above? We're above the VWAP, we're above the daily, way above the daily open. So I mean, the price has already moved quite a lot, huh? It'd be very difficult to long here, wouldn't it? It'd be very difficult to long. The price has already moved, but it's not bearish just yet. Just simply because we're above lots of levels, huh? We haven't really lost any levels. The price is kind of still trending up, isn't it? And I'm not seeing any local bearish divergences just yet. I'm not seeing them. You see, the CVD is putting in higher highs, the price is putting in higher highs, and so at the moment I'm not seeing bearish divergences. If anything, it's just lack of participants, but not like the bearish divergence which we want to see. When that moved up, you see the CVD went up and put in a higher high, and the price put in a higher high, and we haven't seen any big liquidations just yet to the upside. Maybe when New York opens we can get a sell-off, huh? And that's kind of, you'd want to see some you want to see what New York does. And the New York opens in about 1.5 hours, almost just over 1.5 hours. And I don't know if that's going to be a daily level, so let me just correct that to make sure. Possible daily if green, just so there's no confusion. Otherwise there aren't really many levels here, and it could quite easily go down to, I think that's probably the next real nice long, actually, just looking at it. And that would be in line with the idea of the Wyckoff. It would be this is going back to this Wyckoff. Effectively, the long is this. It's a reaction off that daily level with a swing failure. And there's a weekly level just underneath it. So it doesn't really matter where the price finds support. The entry would be the swing failure. And once you get that, you have an invalidation. And obviously if there is no swing failure, then the price just goes, if the price just does this, yeah, forget it. Don't even look at it. You need a reaction. You get a reaction. And then what you're looking for is a 5-wave impulsive move, huh? That first impulsive move, and that should take us all the way above the AR. And so you'd obviously have some intermediary take profits at key levels, but you know, you could actually have a really nice risk to reward here based on how the size of the invalidation there, with that kind of Wyckoff type move, ST in phase B. That will get the market really bullish again. Then you're looking for a break of this trend line, and then once you take out the highs, people will start taking profit. You hit that point of control. If you get the 5 waves, probably that's where you're looking for the price to return and start coming back down. Wouldn't you? And then who knows, like, we don't know if it's going to print, if this was to continue, if you print a schematic 1 or a schematic 2, we don't know, because a schematic 1 would take us to another low, and schematic 2 would take us to a higher low, but it would get quite choppy. Yeah, you see. And actually what these are, this is like a large ABC corrective, isn't it? See that? ABC, that's what it is. That's what this is. This is like a 5-wave, the first part of the 5-wave, put in a low, spring, that's your first wave. These are all waves. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think that's probably the best I can do looking at the charts. And as always, it's about the reaction. It's always about the reaction. Always about the reaction. And in here, so you don't know how the price is going to react, but it could easily go through, and what you want to see is, you just want to see that the price is now finding resistance. But the problem with the point of any level is that the price goes through it, and then it washes it, and you form something else, and then like an equal triangle, and then you don't know, because it could always break up. So it's not as clear as day, but like that's kind of the zone, isn't it? That point of control. Take out that daily, that weekly high point of control. Everyone is bullish. But what you actually have are longs, big longs here, taking profit into the point of control. That's what you actually have. And again, for safety, once the price starts coming back underneath this pivot, it'd be a failed auction, wouldn't it? It'd be like a failed auction. You have an invalidation, later entry, but you have a nice invalidation, and then you're probably aiming for wherever this pivot is. You'll be aiming for like the golden pocket. It's kind of what you're aiming for, something like that. But I mean, obviously you want a smaller invalidation. It's just that you need an invalidation. You need to know where you're wrong, because otherwise you get into a trade and the price does that, you know. And obviously that's not what you're expecting. That's not what you want. So you have to be out of it. That's what I got at the moment. I think right now we're in a bit of a kind of, we've broken that steeper trend line, like I said. It's washed it, and now we're kind of just, whatever we're doing here, we're maybe going sideways. Maybe we go down, maybe we take that low. We could go sideways now for 5-6 days over the Christmas period. This might just go sideways and then down, you know. So I don't really know exactly when it's going to happen. And then obviously the only other thing I would say is if we do manage to reclaim this value area low quickly today, let's just say we get a bullish engulfing and we go right back up, so things will change a little bit, because find support, then you could actually have a higher up long trade on a sign of strength, which is a reclaim of this level. You can see the value area low here is acting as a SR flip. You can see that there. Alright, so that is my Bitcoin update for today. I will have a look at dominance. Yeah, dominance is kind of just wherever it is. It went down, it's going back up. Nothing really to report. Let's have a look at ETH. Let's have a look at ETH. Yeah, ETH is actually not doing too bad, is it? Because it's just kind of finding some support on the top of this value area high, isn't it? That's what it's trying to do. So ETH is actually looking quite good here. You've got this big value area. We've broken up. We've put in a new all-time high by a fraction. And now we've come all the way back down to the value area. We're back testing this value area high. So I would say ETH doesn't look too bad if the price continues to find support here. And that's kind of what you want. You want the ETH to bottom here. Let's have a look at ETH BTC. ETH BTC is at a critical place as well, because it's at above the range point of control. And if it continues to find support here and BTC does actually form an accumulation schematic, then we could see a nice continuation here and a nice ETH pump as BTC springs up. Kind of that. Any questions? If there's no questions, then I'll move on. Alright, no questions, that's fine. Let's have a look at the next token.